Hi, and welcome to this tutorial from Imagine Landscapes. I'm Sarah Shira, and we are going to be attaching the beard and the nose to Gnicki from the Nice to Gnome You pattern. It's always a super exciting stage because we really get to see the personality pop right out. We've got our little kangaroo pocket, we've got our brim, and what I want you to do now is I want you to flip the brim up and out of our way so that we can do a good job of getting the beard nice and high up so that when we flip down, this looks like a hat that's coming down over the eyes and the beard coming up with that. So what we need to do is we need to line up this row or line of pearls with this lowest point on the brim. And that's going to create a nice vertical line and sort of tie everything together. So I'm going to thread my yarn onto my yarn needle. And the first thing is always securing the corners. And what I like to do is I like to go down into the beard. And I like to stretch it just a tiny, tiny bit, not a lot. Did you see that? Just a tiny bit, and put my yarn through or my needle through. And then I kind of thread it up and peek, and that popped. So I'm going to try that again, like that. Lift the beard a little bit, and you can see, now I can see if I grab these bits of the beard, of the gnome body, the beard will be in the right place in that corner. Getting the corner sort of up and back is one of the best things you can do for a beard. So we always want to come up and down through the fabric of the beard. I don't like to whip stitch down over, so I come up. Okay, so now we're going to use this to sort of hide what we're going to do. So I like to think of garter stitch as having a cap and having a smile. So cap, smile. And we're actually going to use these caps to disguise the stitches because when the yarn goes to the side, it's going to look a lot like a cap. So we've got one there. So I'm just going to go down. I'm going to lift the beard up. And now I can see where I need to scoop. If this will be decorative, you can kind of skip stitches. If it's going to be a toy, I suggest trying to cover every stitch. Kids tend to walk around holding toys by weird parts, and then if the part is not firmly sewn on, it just tends to come right off. So we're going to go to the side of that, on that cap, pierce down, have a look, easily know what to scoop up with our needle. As you go, you may find yourself kind of pushing this over because it's stretchy. So just have a look every now and then and see what you're doing. If you need to, you can kind of push this back and make the next one travel a little shorter. It's not too big a deal. Knitting is nice and stretchy. All right, so I'm going to come up beside this ribbing, the cable bit here. So we no longer have the cable or the garter caps to lead us, but we're still just going to go sort of travel one stitch over, find what we need. You don't always have to go under 2 strands of yarn on the body. We're doing this so frequently that it'll be nice and secure even with 1 strand. All right. Not sure what's going on there that's wanting to peek through. Let's not pull that quite so tight. So now I'm going to go over. Avoid the temptation to start kind of creeping up. We want to stay on the green side of the body. In case you guys think I'm always doing things perfectly, because I'm not, a lot of the tips I give are things that I notice myself doing in video and thinking, oh goodness, there are people watching me do this and I'm getting it wrong. So don't think that designers necessarily know everything and have it all together. A lot of what we've learned by making mistakes and just being willing to tear out or adapt and finding ways to fix it. A lot of the tips and tricks that you'll find from people about, oh, well, you know, when you have this problem, just do X. The reason they know to do X is because they made a mistake and they wanted to just fix it rather than have to necessarily tear it out and re-knit it and all of that. So just kind of don't judge yourself too harshly, especially for those of you doing toys for the first time. There are some little tricks and tips that you will sort of develop for your own knitting style as you go, and you will suddenly realize, oh, when I work in little circumferences, I really just prefer to work I-cord. The nose was a really fiddly clue, and one option is to just knit it like an I-cord when it's just a few stitches. And I didn't give that tip this time, although I have given very similar tips in the past. All right, so we are at the corner, and because this brim is going to be covered, I don't mind that this row, see how this is kind of sticking up and looking, well, I don't like the way that is very vertical and very bumpy and puffy, but we are going to be covering that. So I don't mind, and I haven't written the beard so that the garter is sort of like perfectly happening along that top row so that we can do that. So just be aware that it's okay if it doesn't look perfect right now, unless, like I said, you want this up, in which case you may want to figure out some other trick for getting the top edge to be more smooth. So I'm in the corner, and like I said, I like the corners to kind of go up and back. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my needle down and then just go over from there to the left a little bit, because that will pull it a little bit that way. And I pulled my yarn out. All right, so now I'm going to go back up through the beard, and now we can see that that corner is nice and secure. So we need now to bury the ends. So let's flip this over and deal with that. So what I like to do is usually I follow the stitch and do almost like a duplicate stitch. So I'm going to go down, and first you got to kind of get in. So I'm going to go down over here, and now I'm going to try to do a sort of a duplicate stitch move. So I'm going to go sideways under here, and then it goes up here and under here. When I do this, I make sure that I am actually piercing the plies of the strands at least sort of once every maneuver. That helps lock. That pierced strand wants to go back together, and it kind of locks it into place. And then go back down. Now I'm going to pierce this strand here, and then I'm going to go over. Another thing you could do is just kind of like tie a knot, stick it in, Gnicki, all the way over, pull it out. When you're here, pull it a little taut, snip it, and it'll bounce back inside. That's another option that you absolutely can do, and it will be perfectly fine. So why don't I even show you what that would look like? We'll just go into Gnicki. We'll come out over here. We're going to pull it taut, and it's gone. Easy peasy, right? All right, so this nose. It is really difficult to get a round shaped nose over stitches this small. In knitting, we can get a really nice ball shape if we have sort of enough stitches and enough time to make it work, but it is really difficult this size. So what I found was this really wants to look more like a rugby ball or like an egg or an American football than a nice round nose. So once our ends are here, if you just pull on them a bit, you will, sorry about that. If you just pull on them a little bit, you will find that they sort of snug up and produce something that from the front looks really round and pleasant, which is what I'm going for, just to explore a slightly different nose style. So we've got these 4 strands of yarn, and what we want to do is we want to get them into this nice high spot here. Depending on what you like the look of, you can either have it so that the stitches are going up, just like the stitches on the hat and the body, or you could turn it sideways and have the stitches going across, like the hat hat stitches. So that's kind of your call. I like mine going up. So what we need to do is we need to get these 2 ends through the beard and onto the other side where we can weave them in. And if we put them both down in the same spot, it will be slightly less stable than if we do one here and pull it through like that. And if we do the next one just a little bit to the side, so right here, Now we've got a more stable base. Now, if you are wanting Gnicki to go sideways, that's the way to do that. If you want Gnicki to go more up and down, what I suggest you do is you go above and below. So I'm going to put one of them right there. There we are. And again, we want that nice and high. When I designed this, I was really inspired by a lot of the commercially available gnomes with the hats made of felt that are that have the hats drooping down over their faces, kind of like that. And so I really wanted to try to do that. And this brim was one of the ways I explored to get that to work. So that's why I want that nose just perfectly up and in that little divot there. All right, so we've got them there. And I'm going to just plain tie a knot in these or four ends, I guess we're gonna call them. Well, I wonder where that stuffing came from. 4 ends. I'm going to tie a double knot. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to weave them down those little stockinette stitches that look like a ribbed bottom. And when I weave into ribbing, no, I am not going to weave them in yet. I am first going to go, and I'm feeling my nose and it's feeling a bit floppy. So what I'm going to do is I am going to go up into the nose and sideways and through. So I'm just barely skimming, and it's really hard for me to show you on the other side because of course the beard is in the way. So what I've done is I've just sort of pierced the nose, I could feel it, and then just sort of skimmed inside to try to anchor that. All right, I'm going to do that again. Now, I believe in the instructions, I say to weave in one end first, which is probably what I should have done. Do that one more time. Then I will show you how I weave in ends on a ribbing, like on the inside of a sock. This is what I do. On the cuff. So I go around and around, and what I'm doing is I'm just picking up the side of that V, and I like to give it traveling up and up and up. I like to pierce the plies a little bit, and then I go under a stitch and I turn it and I come back down a little bit on the other side, usually not as far, piercing this just a little bit. And it's really hard for that end to pop out in a way that disturbs anybody or pops through the front. So here we have Gnicki's nose and beard, and I still have another end to weave in, but there's no need to make you watch that. So this is the nose and beard part of assembling Gnicki. I'm going to attach a video in the pattern for just attaching the arms in general. The video I linked to in this pattern talks about attaching the arms using another pattern. And I just wanted to quickly, because most gnome arms attach in a very similar way, I want them to attach where the beard, the body, and the brim sort of all line up. So rather than shooting a whole new video, during this one, I just wanted to show you that what I did is I just peeked a little bit under the brim there and put Gnicki's arms like that. I had you leave extra long ends on the arms so that if your arms turn out to be not quite long enough for where your kangaroo pocket goes, you can quickly add a few rounds of I-cord. And here's another version of Gnicki, my wild child Gnicki that I knit to make sure that no matter what colors we did, we could have fun with Gnicki. So as I said, just kind of hide those arms, or not even hide them, right at the junction of where the brim wants to come down and the beard and the body. I hope Gnicki makes you as happy as seeing all your Gnicki photos has been making me. I'm Sarah Shira. I'm insanely crazy about gnoming, and I look forward to seeing you the next time you gnome. Bye-bye.